So I saw this story, I ran into the story, and then I went ahead and I looked it up, and I found an interview in which this is from, the statement. So we're gonna talk about that real quick here about Crawford seemingly not understanding the brand and of Tank Davis and himself. But before we play that video real quick, because I got the clip for you. If you're new here, thank you for stopping in and checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe if you will. And if you're an older subscriber, thank you once again for supporting me. It's been, very amazing so far what we've done with this very small channel. Now, I'm going to play this video for you real quick. And I'm going to come back and talk about it because it's kind of like when people don't understand where they are in life a little bit and they have like recency bias, this is what it sounds like a little bit. I'm going to play the clip real quick and we're going to come back.
And we know these super cards that we've been seeing, they're stacked. I mean, I'm sure there is no co-main event yet, but can we say Shakur is the co-main event on your night? Can we see him against Tank? Could we?
It's gonna be crazy. It should be crazy. You know, Crawford and Canelo. I'm pretty sure.
Shakur and Tank?
That would be dope. That would be dope, but
I think that's the day the sports world stops, right?
Yeah.
If we get a super card of that caliber.
If Tank was not so cocky to be on a Terence Crawford undercard, that would be dope. But I don't see Tank taking a backseat to no fighter because he'll think it's the Tank show. So I don't know, but it should be a good undercard.
I know you two had a back and forth not too long ago. Would you say that's squashed, or is there still some animosity between what was said between both sides, with you and Tank?
Man, ain't nothing to say about it. I already said what I had to say about it.
How does Shakur beat Tank?
Just being Shakur. I don't think those guys can match what Shakur brings to the table.
Okay, now that you've heard that clip, now here's the thing. I'm not the biggest Tank Davis fan. You can look through my channel and figure that out on your own. But I also understand that Crawford saying that he's too cocky to allow himself to be on an undercard because he wants it to be about Tank. That's what will keep him out from being, versus Shakur on the undercard of Canelo and himself. Crawford, it's not reading the room. You're not reading the room. You don't understand brands. Okay, so first of all, let's break this down. You, my friend, have never, ever headlined any pay-per-view that made, and I could be wrong, over 125,000 pay-per-view buys, and that's being generous. Okay, every pay-per-view or event that has pay-per-view attached to it that he was main eventing, Crawford has lost money. Now let's couple that with Gervonta Tank Davis. Now Gervonta Tank Davis is he's never sold more than Errol Spence. But he doesn't need to because his pay-per-views are always priced really high. And they show out live to people. The gate is always full. And so he makes the money back anyway. Even if he sells 260,000, pay-per-view buys at $90 almost a damn pop, that's a lot of money that he gets on the back end plus the $3 million, $2 million, whatever he gets up front. He is literally, if you're going to say Canelo's the face of boxing, then Tank Davis is number 2. And you could swap them both. Canelo doesn't need Terence Crawford to sell this. Canelo can sell this on his own, right? Canelo doesn't need Bud. Bud needs Canelo more than he would ever need anyone else. Because at the end of the day, this pay-per-view, it's all about Canelo. Bud sells the intriguement because of his last great win over Spence, and not so much his last win over the Dream, Majamov, because that was a contested fight, and people say he might have lost or had a draw. More just like Tank Davis just recently had. Could have lost that fight, but he had a draw. But doesn't understand that saying that he's too cocky. It's like saying, if Tank Davis was a bad fighter, he never won a world title. Of course, that goes without saying. He's cocky, so of course he wouldn't like that. He doesn't need to humble himself to be under your undercard. He doesn't need your undercard. A person like me who understands that is not a Tank Davis fan, super fan. I'm a fan of the fighter, but I'm not a super fan, right? So I can understand that. I can understand that he doesn't need you. You need him. You would need him more so if you were not fighting Canelo in September. If Canelo goes by Scarlet, which is a very big plausibility that he would get, past Skull. Come September, if let's say if Canelo didn't get past Skull and you needed, let's say you were fighting Skull, you would be the number 2. You would be the co-main against Skull on a Tank Davis card. You understand? It wouldn't be the other way around. Shakur needs Tank more than Tank needs Shakur. That doesn't mean I don't want to see the fight. That does not mean that. That fight on its own could be a pay-per-view main eventer. But you're pairing them together as if they're both on the same level economically. They're not on the same level economically. Shakur and Tank are on different spectrums of economics in boxing. If and when they fight, it'll be a main event, pay-per-view event, Shakur versus Tank, but let it be known that Tank will be taking the lion's share, because even if they had no titles, because Tank is economically in a bigger space. He doesn't need Shakur. He doesn't need him. So for him to humble himself, to be on an undercard of a mismatch card, to fight a guy who's never sold a pay-per-view in his life, and I like Shakur. Shakur, even in his last fight, showed facets of his game and why we think he can beat Tank. But can beat does not equate to he is on the same economic level. You understand? Just like Canelo and Crawford are not on the same economic level. Even resume-wise, they're not on the same level, right? At all. So I just found it funny that now, because he thinks he pretty much has this fight locked in the bag, he's saying things like, if I beat Canelo, I'll be an all-time great top 3. No, you wouldn't, because you would have done nothing to deserve to get this undisputed title shot. Even if you became 3-time undisputed, it would be you beat 2 Hall of Famers, one significantly better than the other. Is that enough to put you all-time 3? No, that's not enough, because on your way to getting the other undisputed titles, you beat average guys who had average titles. Remember, there are champions like Skull, like Rolly Romero, who we would say are not all-time greats. So if you were to put it like this, if you had all 3 belts and then you beat Rolly Romero for a WBA belt and you became undisputed, that's your road to undisputed. You see what I'm saying? So no, I digress. It's just a funny situation to see Bud say that he would have to he would not humble himself to be on an undercard of a magnitude of a fight. I understand it's a big magnitude, big money fight, but the fact that you think that he has to humble himself to be on it, that is a shame. It's a shame that he doesn't humble himself to be on a card like that against Shakur, as if it was a privilege to him to be on that card. It wouldn't be a privilege to him. If it wasn't for Canelo, again, you would be privileged to be on his card. See, and mind you, Tank has said in the past with other fighters that he wouldn't mind co-maining, and whether he was the main or he wasn't the main. When it came to Benavidez, you know what I'm saying? Like he knew that if Benavidez had the right dance partner, he would, and they were on the same card, they would kind of flip. He wouldn't mind being the co-main with David, knowing the dance partner, right? Don't know the dance partner. But he doesn't need to. The fact is that if Tank Davis said, even with David Benavidez, I have to be the main, he wouldn't be wrong, because economically they're in different spaces. So he has shown himself to be humble, to be on an undercard as a co-main, while still being the A side. But it's arrogant for you to think that you make that statement that he's too cocky to realize that, in a sense, that's what he's saying. He's too cocky to realize that he should humble himself so he could get a fight with him in the fall and be on that same card, because it'll be a privilege and an honor. That's wild. That's wild. That's wild to say from a guy who's never sold a pay-per-view in his life that made any money. Nobody's checking for Bud. No one outside of hardcore Bud buddies are checking for him in his fights, because if they were checking for him in his fights, he would be in the position that Tank is. See how Tank fights relatively unknowns and still sells out, just like Terence has in his career. The careers are almost identically the same as far as the resume goes, except for the undisputed stuff. Obviously, that's a very important part of it. And I take no discredit to Bud of his accomplishments, because they're solid. I'm not saying that he has a bum resume. I'm saying he has a solid resume, but it's not an all-time great resume. Neither does Tank. The careers are kind of similar. Bud's is better, resume-wise, of course. But for some reason, people are willing to pay to see Tank on lesser opposition than they would Bud on the same level opposition. That's just what it is. So, I mean, when I heard that, what he said, I was like, this is him having his own recency bias on his own situation, not knowing that all this fight is just a curiosity mismatch of Turki Al-Sheikh. It's not necessarily a fight that anybody wanted to see. Nobody was calling for this. Nobody really was like, hey, Canelo versus Bud. Nobody. And don't come in the comments saying that it was, because it wasn't. Nobody was checking for that fight. No one at all. If anything, people would have said, okay, you want to go fight David Morrell, go fight, David Benavidez when he was at 168. Why not then? Because he knows at the end of the day, this is just his last hurrah cash grab. He's talking about he would give people 154. Those were options. Those are options that he's coming back down. He might come back. No, he won't. I guarantee you, no, he won't. If he wins and he beats Canelo, and that's a big if, and I'm not saying he can't because there's always a chance, he's going to rematch him for bigger money. And then if he loses, he's going to rematch him with a rubber match for bigger money. And he's going to retire. If he loses, and that's what most likely is going to happen, and if he loses bad, he's never coming back down to 154. He's not going down to 160. It's over. He's walking away. He's 38 years old. He's not going to go and keep on fighting and losing in that manner. But anyway, I just find it funny. I just found it that where he thought he was or is in his career, in his own mind. Again, this is not me saying that his accomplishments aren't worth anything. It's just that I don't know why people overblow them all the time. And it's okay to say he has a solid resume. He's done great things with the stuff he was given, the opportunities he was given, and the opportunities he put himself into. But that does not equate greatness. He did not face great opposition throughout his career. He faced one great fighter, we think, in Spence, and time will tell when he's officially retired and we really dig into his resume. But that's it. We can only point to one fight, one night, one time. I don't understand. So for him to think he's economically in a better space than Tank, for Tank to have to humble himself to be in that card, it's kind of crazy. But let me know down below, what do you think? Did you get out of it what I got out of it, or you think something totally different? Let's start a conversation down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'm out. Peace.